It's lights out and away we go!
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the GT UK F1 podcast. I'm joined by David.
Hey, everyone.
And Alan.
Hello.
So don't forget, obviously, you know, the usual drill, wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, on the RSS website, and have some podcasts. Obviously not Apple,
Yet.
unless somebody really wants to start paying me. Put it on Apple. Obviously we've got 2 races until the summer break. This is just going to let you know what's happening. Then obviously there's going to be no podcasts during the summer break. Then it'll be back for 4. And then there's another break, isn't there? No, it won't be. Be back for 4. There's another break. And then... yeah, it's a weird one towards the end of the season, but we'll cope. But... Silverstone.
Silverstone, a rarity for Silverstone. It was actually a pretty damn good weekend.
I mean, obviously, none of us basically saw practice 1, 2, or 3. We'll just point that one out.
Mhm.
But did anybody expect the weather?
Well, it's England.
It's like British weather.
Yeah. But it's caused such a kerfuffle. Even in qualifying.
Oh, yeah, well, qualifying new practice sessions were affected. It's typical British summer, isn't it? It's all over the place.
But it's funny how, you know, we always get the shit weather around the Grand Prix, and then afterwards, look at what the weather's going to be doing. Supposed to be getting nicer. Bloody typical, innit?
Oh. Well, let's be honest, we can thank the weather, because I think it made things 10 times more interesting than it would have been without it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean...
Yeah, which
qualifying. You what?
I didn't really catch the quality, unfortunately, so it's down to you two.
Well, if we go through them in sections, I mean, the big surprise for Q1 was bloody Perez, wasn't it?
What,
Just at the time when he's being told he needs to pick things up because otherwise it's a gravel trap.
at Cops.
Yeah.
It was like...
Ironically, you saw Max do the same thing towards the end of the session, but Max managed to keep it in a straight line and not beat it.
Yeah, but it just seems weird how the car, when you saw Perez's car in the end, it was it was stuck.
Well, that's what gravel traps do.
But how did Max?
No.
That was the thing. How did Max I mean, he didn't get away with it unscathed, but
Because what Max managed to do, because it's almost Perez's car spun,
true.
went in backwards, because Max went in forwards, it's momentum, basically. And if you get across that gravel, there's often a little bit of tarmac right up against the barrier, like an escape road.
Well, that's what you found.
So Max actually managed to slide right across and into that, whereas Perez, because the car spun on him, went backwards into the gravel, and unfortunately you weren't getting out of there.
Does it not seem weird that, obviously, this season we're hearing a lot from certain team principals saying, you know, the example of we'll use Perez. Perez could get replaced mid-season, for example, whether it'll happen or not, and the likes of Sargent getting replaced mid-season. But you don't hear about that from the likes of Bottas, Guan Yu Zhou.
I think most teams don't really want to use the mid-season driver because he generally doesn't do you any favours.
No. But why are we hearing it from certain ones and not...
Well, Red Bull have done it in the past.
Oh, we know Red Bull have. But from not the likes of people who aren't performing and yet to score points.
I think they know because their car isn't that great. There's no point. You can't really bet the driver. The car's not great. So people like Bottas, who we all know is a great driver, just doesn't have that car underneath him. So I don't think they're putting too much pressure on the drivers to perform as well as they should.
Yeah, that's it.
So
Don't forget, Bottas is in a car which is decidedly midfield at best.
So when you got teams like Red Bull that are expected to perform week in, week out, the pressure is high.
And we know that.
Yeah.
So obviously, they will tend to put a lot of pressure on the drivers, and the drivers don't start performing, such as Perez. They will start outing. Try and give them that pressure. Try and say, look, this is what's going to happen. Step it up, or you're gone.
Yeah.
But then, like they said, you could use the exact same thing against Danny Rick. But then there's been talks of him returning back to the main Red Bull, and it's like, well, what's the point in Danny going back to the main Red Bull? Apart from sponsors, sponsorship. There's no...
That's kind of the problem. If they were to boot Perez out now, who would you put in that car?
Danny would automatically probably go in it, wouldn't he? Or would you bring in...
I suppose you got Lawson waiting in the wings.
Well, Lawson would go into the sister team.
Yeah, but if there's a slot in the main Red Bull, you never know.
No.
I personally, for what it's worth, I agree with you. I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah, I think Danny Rick would probably end up either going, Danny would either move up and then Lawson come into the sister team, or who else is... No, because Danny's his only Red Bull's reserve, isn't he? Or is there somebody else?
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean just because he's reserve doesn't mean he automatically has to do it.
No, but I imagine that's what they do.
One of the other ways you could do it is a complete role reversal. Danny goes to Red Bull, Perez goes to RB.
That's what they did with Kvyat.
Exactly.
True.
It's not the first time they've done it.
That's what they did with Danny Kvyat, if you remember.
Well, there is talk of, obviously, once Ocon disappears, there's talk of Jack Doohan going into the Alpine.
I think a lot of wait and see what this engine situation with Alpine ends up being.
There's rumours Alpine are going Merc next year.
That's what I'm saying now.
Next year or 2026, one of them.
Now, I'd say an Alpine with a Merc engine is probably a slightly more tempting bid for other drivers than their own engine at the moment.
Yeah. But most of them are still waiting to see what Sainz is doing. Sainz can't leave it much longer. Well, he can, but... Mercedes...
I don't think it's him. I think there's other parties who are waiting for deals to be signed. I don't think it's necessarily him that's...
Well, he's the cork in the bottle.
Yeah, but it might not be his choice. He probably would like to announce what he's doing and be done with it.
But it is between Williams. The hot topic is either Williams or Sauber, Audi, basically. And we know this isn't qualifying, but it's... I just can't understand why it's taking him so long, them so long to announce what he's doing.
Like I've just said, I reckon they could be waiting for other things. They could be waiting for, the deal might not be fully signed. They could be waiting for people to sign contracts and stuff.
It is a waiting game. And I reckon it'll be by the summer break, we may get an answer as to what's happening.
Probably during the summer break, I think we'll get an announcement.
And then from there, it'll be a knock-on effect for all the other drivers that need to sign.
But we know Mercedes is so hell-bent on trying to get Kimi Antonelli. Which is going to be a hell of a step up for him.
Oh, yeah.
Being chucked into the main car. But then you've got, obviously Nico's got the Sauber, but then there's other people that need to be shifted around, and not many places left.
No, there isn't. And that's the thing. There's not many places left, and there's quite a lot of people unaccounted for.
Yeah. And the whole Max rumour was for 2026.
Right.
The whole Max got Mercedes was a 2026 rumour. Which, to be honest, I can't see it happening.
Yeah. I think it's unlikely, but I would have said the Hamilton to Ferrari deal was quite unlikely, and here we are, so.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
The one person that I think should go off, should basically fuck Mercedes off and go and do something like DTM or something, is Mick Schumacher. He's not going to get a drive at this point.
Not looking likely, is it?
If they're so hell-bent on bringing Antonelli in, why have you got Mick? Really? Just because he's a Schumacher, is that it? Because how I feel about it, because it's like, yeah, he could.
Also, there can be a certain incentive. Keep a driver signed on your bus, it keeps him off other people's.
Yeah, but all Mick is doing is basically simulator and development and testing. That's it.
He could be very, very good at that. Judging by Merck's performance, obviously it's all working very well.
Yeah.
But
maybe that's because let's be honest, as much as I like the guy and he's a Schumacher, his attempt in F1 didn't go down amazingly. I know the car played a big part in that. I am not trying to, but maybe he just wasn't quite F1 material.
I still think Mick probably would have had a better deal at Williams,
possibly
alongside Albon. But Albon wasn't in it because Albon was at DTM at that point.
Thing is, there's still time for that to actually happen. If starts to go to Williams like we think he might, what's to say that Mercedes don't give Schumacher to Williams? Say, look, here's a driver, use him. And if we need him, obviously we will recall him if and when needed.
Because let's first not forget, as much as he's a good driver, I don't think Mercedes ever do anything with Albon. I think his links to Red Bull are still too close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Sargent's just not proving to be worth it. Stroll isn't. Alonso's a bit beyond it, so to be honest, somebody like Mick could be the next in the line, but I do agree with you. He could do with track time, but...
Well, it's the same with Djokovic as well. Djokovic isn't going to get a drive if Stroll stays. Stroll needs to be out of that seat. He really does.
We all know that.
But I mean, qualifying.
Back to qualifying.
I mean, it was interesting But like you say, Q1 was the big shock of Perez. Obviously, we knew Gasly at that point had probably just given up because he knew he had that penalty looming. He knew he was staying at the back anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, Danny Rick just got through at Q2. Just. I was quite shocked at Bottas not making it.
I think the weather didn't help. I think that a few people got caught out of it, but it was like people had laps deleted and stuff, which made it very tight. So I think that didn't help.
Alonso didn't have a bad qualifying. But if you notice something, even though the weather was the way the weather was, kind of proves our point. Okay, Sargent got through to Q2, which was a bit of a surprise.
Thing is, weather conditions like that can be a great leveler. That's can be the beauty of them at times.
Yes, but look at Albon. That's the thing.
Oh yeah.
Albon got through to Q3.
So did Stroll.
Yeah, well. I know.
And he qualified his teammate in the process.
Which surprised me, considering Alonso is usually good in unfavourable conditions, shall we say. So what was your biggest shock of Q2?
Well, it's got to be Leclerc, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Leclerc missing out. Now, I'm sure he had a lap deleted, didn't he? Which didn't help.
Yeah. The other shock of Q2 was Hulkenberg being very consistent.
That Haas is not the worst car. It's certainly not as bad a car as it used to be.
But yet Hulkenberg seems to be able to drive it better than K-Mag.
Oh yeah, he definitely needs to have a better handle on it at the moment. K-Mag's great as a blocker.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Oh, we know that.
Yeah, K-Mag's good if you need to keep you behind you.
Obviously, McLaren was just what we expected. To a point.
I'm sure we didn't expect that top two, though.
To be honest, I expected Max to be on pole. I expected Max to be upsetting things.
I think it would be Max Orlando. I thought it would be Max Orlando.
I definitely wasn't expecting the two Mercedes to be on top, no.
I mean, let's be honest, the Brits 1, 2, 3 at the British Grand Prix was nice.
First time ever, I think it was.
It was.
No, it happened once in South Africa in around 1960-something.
Yeah, I meant at Silverstone, first time
That's
ever.
at Silverstone, yeah. Because
And
Crofty kept going on about it.
First time in 56 years they've had a British 1, 2, 3 qualify.
So yeah, we had a race. I think it was South Africa in 1960-something where it was Brits 1, 2, 3. But
yeah, I mean, like, I thought it was going to be either Lax or Mando.
I'm clipping that one.
Max Orlando.
Max Orlando, ladies and gentlemen. Look out for that shirt in the store soon.
Don't pick Carlando.
to take Paul.
Max Orlando.
But at one point, I actually did think Oscar as well. Because he was
Oscar's performing nicely, though. He seems to have a bit of a run at the moment.
Yeah.
I say he was quite punchy. But, obviously, then we move on to the race. obviously Gasly was required to start from the back of the grid because of additional use of additional power unit, and then Perez Perez had to required to start from pit lane after car was modified.
Also, you had Danny Rick had big problems before the session, didn't he?
Yeah,
They had to basically rebuild the entire back end. I think they used mainly old parts. They got away without
penalties.
But literally right up to the end, they were having to rebuild the entire back end of that RB. So I say never confidence inspiring.
And the thing is, though, we're gonna probably start seeing a lot more teams start to struggle after summer.
I'll bring it on. I've always said, make it tougher for them. Make them work harder on it.
Yeah. It makes more interesting for the race.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
No, but I mean in terms of parts wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said make them work for it's. I mean, I floated that idea past you the other week about dropping him out of fuel they're allowed and watching how they all suffer for that.
Well, yeah.
The thing is, you don't want to see the same person win week in, week out sort of thing, which is what Red Bull have done for X amount of races now.
And what Mercedes did before that, and what Red Bull did before that, and what Ferrari did before that.
That's what other teams have done in the past. So we can't just say, people are going to get bored of the Red Bull dominance era because Mercedes have done the same, and like you say, Ferrari.
Yeah. But now okay, Max had a great start to the season. I'm not going to sit there and lie. But other teams are catching up.
And let's be honest, even this race, Max still actually extended his championship lead.
Still.
Oh, yeah.
Because at the end of his nearest rival was Lando, if he's in front of him. So a bad day at the office still produced a second place.
Yeah. But it's getting more the racing's getting more interesting. It's not
100%.
It's not a who's going to finish second, third now, because we know who's going to finish first. It's who's actually going to finish first. Who's going to get that pole position? Who's going to do well?
Yeah, 100%. We've literally got probably 5-6 cars at the moment that are capable of winning.
Yeah.
Well,
and I'm probably being slightly cruel to a couple of others when I say 5 or 6, but
you've got the Merc, you've got Red Bull, you've got McLaren.
That's the 6 at the moment. I'm afraid as much as I'd like to put Ferrari in that list, they're not doing much to support that theory at the moment.
I don't know. Sainz, maybe. Leclerc, probably not.
But in theory, you could still say there's 6 cars because you've got both Mercs, both McLaren, Max, Sainz.
Yeah.
So
I'd go with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the race started off fairly quiet with the threat of rain. And of course, in Britain, there's always the threat of rain, but at this point, seemed to be fairly confident it was coming, and did it.
But did it, though? That was the thing. It was very hard. The problem is with the TV cameras, it's very hard to see when it rains. Unless it monsoons, you couldn't tell it was raining apart from watching people with the emergency ponchos and brawlies. That's how
there was odd shots where you could sort of see it going past the camera too, but it also depends on the size of screen you're watching on and stuff, I guess, to an extent.
I think with the first lot of rain that came in, it was literally in one part of the track. It wasn't all over the track. That's what made it more interesting, was it wasn't covering the track.
I think you had a large part of the track that was still basically fully dry.
Yeah, and that's where the whole, do we go on inters now, or should we just stick it out? And that's what the teams were doing. They were literally sticking it out because it wasn't wet enough. The inters would just be destroyed.
Not everybody.
Within a matter of laps. Well, no, we know that.
Didn't Perez get put on the inters? Leclerc get put on the...
Leclerc did, which was Ferrari going back to Ferrari's old days of strategy by numpties.
Yeah.
You can fully get why they did it with Perez. They were testing for Max.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean they
Perez is
bought-
right down at the back. It doesn't matter. Stick him on him. See what happens. If he suddenly starts lapping 2 seconds a lap quicker than Max, we know it's time to throw Max onto them. Like I say,
Exactly.
Leclerc, Ferrari just...
They bought him in on lap. They bought in both Leclerc and Perez on lap 19 for a set of inters. And it was a they were at one point saying that the tyres that they were slightly quicker, but it just, to me, it just wasn't enough there.
No.
Because
And the trouble is, because it didn't rain hard,
no,
it wasn't long till he went back to saw the dries.
Well, Guan Yu Zhou ended up pitting on lap 12.
yeah,
I think he put another set of like mediums on or something. I don't think he put
Was he not?
Inter onto that.
Did he not start on the softs?
I couldn't tell you. I'd have to look
I'm
back.
sure he started on the softs.
I think he
I'm pretty
did.
sure. I think Joe put a set of mediums on at that accolade, if I remember right.
But then again, he pitted on lap 19 along with Ocon.
Well, that'd be when he put Inters on. Yeah, that lap 12
But
wasn't
then-
Inters.
But then Ocon pitted again on 21.
But hey, it's semantics of. It was too early, basically, was the conclusion.
Oh, we know that.
Because Leclerc and Perez lost 20 seconds in about 4 laps.
I think with Ocon, they put a set of inters on at lap 19. And they put a set of slicks on lap 21 because then he came back in on lap 26 for
Oh, the Inters back on again.
Yeah,
But it was just...
Now, like I say, as a fan of the sport, I like that kind of indecision when teams don't really know what to do.
Well, they really didn't know what to do.
well, no, look at what happened when it did start to rain and teams didn't know what to do, and the front of the grid just went, "What are we going to do now? Who wants to lead the race?"
Says when unfortunately they hung Piastri out to dry in my book.
Yeah, I think they should have.
They should have backed him off and stacked him, double stacked him. He
Exactly.
lost so much time.
That was
Which is exactly what Mercedes did. They stacked them perfectly again. They've done it before and they've done it again. Stack them nicely. Get that couple of seconds between them.
But I don't get why they didn't stack Oscar.
They either weren't confident in their own ability to do it. I think they felt the cars were too close together. Now, they could have got Oscar to back off a little bit. He could have created more of a gap without falling too far into the Merc's clutches.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, they didn't feel confident, so...
Yeah, because he was literally sat right behind Norris at one point, and it's just not enough gap, Get him in, you got like 2 seconds or 3 seconds, get the tyres changed. So you still need that
Because the way
2.5 seconds.
Then they're not allowed to have the next guy's tyres already sat in the pit lane. So they have to be brought out of the garage in time. They're not allowed to have it all stacked up. Just to reduce the amount of shit that's sitting around.
But it was just, like you say, they sort of hung him out to dry, and I agree that...
It was a shame, and it's one of them, it's kind of 50-50. I can kind of see their viewpoint, where they were coming from, but unfortunately.
Trying to prioritise Lando.
He was the lead car at the time, so he would be entitled to the priority.
Yeah.
But then Oscar became the lead car. Literally.
Yeah, but only for a lap, and he lost so much ruddy time on that lap.
Yeah, because the second downpour was literally just, it comes to track. I mean, they showed on the graphics, which areas were inters and which areas were wets.
At one point, they had dry inters and wets on it at the same time. I noticed that.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, that is where it gets so difficult to sort of plan for.
But it wasn't the track wasn't wet enough for full wets. The track
No.
wasn't wet enough even for inters.
Yeah, but it was slightly too wet for slicks. You were sort of in a rough middle ground.
I mean, in my head, as soon as I saw that DRS disabled,
Yeah.
it was pit.
Yeah,
in my head, that's what I thought.
That's what we always go off in the game, innit? As soon as you see that DRS disabled,
Yeah.
it's wet enough for inters.
You know, and that's what I had in my head, and then obviously it's enabled, and then it's disabled, and you're thinking to yourself in your head, right, inters, slicks, get it done, sorted. Bobby, that's a game.
But it was just... Yeah, it just didn't... Nobody could make their mind up. They were leaving the call down to the drivers at some points.
Which I think is fair enough, really, because obviously the driver's the one on that track. The driver's the one that can give them the best answer to the questions. Is it wet enough yet? Do you think it's wet enough? Do you think we need to go on inters? A lot of it does go down to the driver's choice.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll come on to that for a little bit later. I personally think one of the drivers made a bad call, but I think the way he was worded to him sort of put him into the bad call. Well, that's for a little bit later on in the race, so we'll hold that station.
And then we had poor Russell.
Yeah, that was gutting, was that, in front of his home crowd. The only person who had an issue of not enough water.
Well, actually, if we completely flip right back, first retirement was Gasly that didn't even make the grid. He made the formation. Well, didn't make the start.
Did you actually say what happened to that car?
No.
I think it was gearbox.
Oh yeah, I think I did hear something about gearbox issues. Yeah, so
I don't know.
in fact, that car could be taking a penalty next race if they put a gearbox in it.
So, yeah, basically, Gasly did the formation lap in the pits, retired. And then Russell, obviously...
Listen, if you're Alpine, that's not the worst move. At least it means your drivers can't collide.
Yeah.
If you retire one of them at the start.
His lower engine mileage as well. But, yeah, Russell was looking good at one point, and then...
Plus as well, Russell was riding the high after that win at Austria, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was carrying good momentum, his home crowd. As you say, he's never finished any higher than 5th at Silverstone.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Poor guy's cursed at his home Grand Prix.
You know, I reckon if he didn't have to retire, I reckon we could have had a British 1, 2, 3. Me personally.
Possibly. It's impossible to say, and you don't know how that would have changed. Once again, though, you've got to be amazed that even through all them conditions, we had no safety car, no
I know.
real yellow, did we?
Did we not have a VSC?
No.
No.
Oh no, that was the... one of the F2, one of the support races.
There wasn't really, I don't think there was any yellows at all.
Well, there wasn't a retirement, was there? Apart from, Gasly and Russell, obviously, there was no retirement on track.
No.
Yeah. No, you had, I was going to say, you had more... Well, you had the red flag in qualifying, but other than that...
So, you know, in those conditions for them all to keep it perfectly on the track like that, you've got to give them credit. There's some real talented driving going on there to keep a car on slicks going.
Yeah.
Blue was the one that ended up snapping it and saving it. Was it K-Mag?
Lando did it at one point. Max did it a couple of times.
Yeah, but I mean, the one that you actually saw.
I know at the beginning of the race, it was Albon.
Oh,
Albon. I'll tell you what, that was lucky that wasn't a bigger accident.
Yeah, because his teammate was right alongside him.
Yeah. He actually, I thought he took a bit of problem with damage, but he didn't.
I was amazed he didn't clip his teammate.
He
Yeah.
did clip him, didn't he?
No. It wasn't his teammate he hit, it was whoever was in front of him he clipped.
Well,
Yeah, but he kicked him sideways and he was going towards his teammate.
Yeah. But that was some reaction. You literally see his hands in reaction. It's just...
That's when you saw the shot from behind Albon.
It was the above one, to me, you could see it.
And the way the car just snapped.
But that could have been an easy 2, 3, maybe 4-car pile-up there.
Oh, it could have been.
You know, but that's some amazing reaction from Albon, no matter what.
Yeah. Was it K-Mag that nearly ended up in the pit entrance wall?
Yes, it was. Yeah, it came out the last bend, he went sideways, and he was at one point, he wasn't able because he was too far forward, but he ended up going down the pit lane just about sideways.
Richard and Chris.
Yeah.
But, I don't know if you guys noticed, last corner before the pit straight, start line, sorry. Did you know?
Straight.
Yeah, whatever. I wasn't going to give it its title because can't be asked. Did you notice what they'd done to track limits?
Blue line.
What?
They put a blue line in.
Yeah, they moved it like they did at Austria.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they'd moved it slightly.
Yeah, what they done is they painted the blue line down, so that way it's more visible to see.
Where the edge was.
Yeah.
Well, stuff like that makes sense.
Yeah, but they moved track limits again. Are they going to do this at every race?
Well, if it makes them race more within the limits, then yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
But what was wrong with that? What was wrong with that corner at first?
You could go out, if we've done it in the racing where you took the piss, you could run right out, because it's tarmac all the way out for a good distance.
Yeah.
Well, they're making these things clearer, which is no bad thing.
Well, they're just going to do this at every race.
Possibly.
Why not? Don't forget the cars evolve each year. I know it's the same designs, but they evolve each year. So therefore, the cars cars going around that track compared to last year is completely different this year. So therefore, they're trying to accommodate that with the track limits and things like that. So therefore, yeah, if they've got to move them, so be it. If they've got to put a blue line, fair enough. It makes it a lot easier.
I mean, if it was up to me, I'd make it easier than that. The track limits would be the white lines, the full length of the circuit.
Yeah.
Well,
Be that simple. If you go all 4 wheels over that white line without avoiding an accident,
yeah, but isn't that
you get a warning?
That's supposed to be track limits. The white line. This was.
But it isn't, though.
But it is. That's what they were supposed to have said. The white line was supposed to be track limits. That's what they've been trying to enforce.
But it's not been happening.
No shit.
But they're only called to do it at certain corners. Even on every track, it's these corners here, this corner here, this corner here. We go over the lines there. That's the track limits.
It shouldn't be. It should be the entire course.
I agree.
Because what are you going to do? Where the hell? Well, they're not going to be able to move the track limits at Vegas.
Well, no, it's funny, they don't go off the track at Vegas when there's fucking great barriers to stop you if you don't. It's like Monaco. There's no track limits violations at Monaco. It's amazing.
But this is what I mean. Jeddah, can't move it. Abu Dhabi is another one. Are they going to move the track limits slightly somewhere? There's not a lot of places they can do it. But that's the point I'm trying to make, is the fact that why move the track limit when they were originally said, you cross the white line, track limit. I get with some of the street courses, like Baku, etc. There's walls to stop it.
Well, yeah, Vegas, you've got walls and massive speed bumps.
Yeah, and drains.
Yeah, I was about to say, drain covers. But
I mean, I've got it for next year. We put police spike strips all the way around the white lines. That'll stop them going over track limits.
I think that little, like they did at Austria with the gravel, worked perfectly.
Worked. That absolutely worked. Just make it so it's not faster.
Yeah, every track should have that. So it's literally a line.
well, street circuits can't have it.
Yeah,
Well, no,
the stuff is not practical. Yeah, we're granting you that. But and also, I think a lot of the times you find circuits that don't have that. The circuits also do superbike racing, aren't they?
Well, Austria.
Because superbike racings are different.
Yeah, Austria does superbike racing as well.
And yeah, because from what I understood, it's like the reason you didn't like using them big heavy curbs was because of bikes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I thought maybe because you think if a bike hits gravel, basically the rider's going flying.
Well, that where they've got that strip of gravel like they had in Austria, that gets taken up for the superbikes, and something else gets put there.
They can probably cover it with paneling or something just for the sake of.
Like so, they do some up, but that there's a certain bit of like, let's say that strip of gravel gets taken out. But it's just, yeah. See, Spa's going to be another indication as well as whether they move the track limits. Hungary, is it Hungary? Hungary next?
Hungary, then Spa, then summer break.
Yeah. Whether they start moving track limits there. Like, after the chicane.
Well, Spa's already had 2 years of big development, hasn't it?
Well, yeah.
So, Spa's had all that development on some of the corners to try and improve safety.
But we'll have to wait and see.
Well, that's the thing. And I mean, I've completely lost the track of where we were where we're talking about in the race now.
We sort of got around. I think the next point I was going to come on to was basically the second round of pit stops, because it became apparent that the Inters weren't going to last till the end of the race at the point.
No.
They were put on even if the track dried out.
And you could see that on the cars themselves.
Well,
they were ripping them to shreds.
I was going to say that the Inters were just getting. That's what I was about to say, that the Inters were getting ripped to shreds as well.
I mean, Perez put on a fresh set of Inters, didn't he, at one point? I think it was Perez, because he was one of the first to go on to. But then we come to what turned out to be the final round of pit stops, and what I will say now was McLaren seriously dropping the ball.
Yeah.
Now, it's easy to blame Lando because Lando made the call, but I honestly think the whole radio message to him was wrong. Because the radio message said, do you want mediums to send off Verstappen or softs to go for Hamilton? So in that situation, naturally, he said softs. I completely get that. The problem was, I reckon the mediums they had brand new mediums.
Well, that was the thing. They did.
They were one of the few teams that actually had brand new mediums to play with.
Yeah, hence why Max ended up going on the hards.
Now, with those brand new mediums, I'm pretty confident Norris would have won that race.
Yeah, he would have. Well, that's what I feel. He would have got Hamilton.
Mm.
I mean, Max was pushing like a crazy bastard to get to Norris and get to Hamilton because he knew he had the better tyres to do so.
If there'd have been another 2 or 3 laps, I reckon Max would have got there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think McLaren, maybe a little bit of panic, but I think it was a bad call. Was that set of softs?
I'm sorry.
I mean, you watched Piastri pumping in fastest laps behind him.
Mediums.
Yeah.
That was after. I don't know if we've been mentioning it. I still really feel bad how Piastri hung out to dry at the first set of pit stops.
Yeah, he was.
I think we did mention, rather than double stacking, obviously put him a full pit stop behind near enough.
Yeah.
But then he was behind on mediums, way outperforming the guys in front of him on the softs.
Yeah.
And that could have been Norris. And with mediums on, he would have got Hamilton.
Oh, yeah. It'd have probably been a little bit different. There'd have been a battle going on between them two.
That's it, because I think Hamilton only had new set of softs or hards.
That was it. It was only really McLaren had that set of mediums available to them.
I mean, yes, okay, this is softer, quicker, but they don't last as long.
That's it. They're quicker for a short period.
But that Merc must have been either they'd
was pushing it.
Well, either they'd set the car up to be gentler on the tyres, or was that the McLaren? He seemed to have...
McLaren seemed to be really gentle on the tyres. Now, at the end of the day, as much as we don't particularly like the guy, you've got to remember Hamilton has got a lot of experience and he's very good at these sort of conditions. So,
well, so's Alonso.
Hamilton's got quite a few years on him in that regard. Hamilton was always going to extract good performance out of a car in those changeable conditions.
Same could have been said about Alonso, but that didn't happen.
Yeah, but as cliche as it is, British drivers always tend to do well in mixed conditions.
Yeah, because we've grown up with it.
Exactly. So we're used to it. So therefore, we're slightly better. Okay. Yes, Max had a great race, don't get me wrong. But as for a British driver to win, was it inevitable that any British driver would win it? Yeah, because of conditions.
Conditions suited the Brits.
But
yeah,
but you can't discount Max.
Oh no, you can't. Max drove well.
No.
Max had a good chance of winning that race.
You can't discount Max because you can't say, oh well, British drivers are better because of the weather, because the weather can be just the same as what we get over in the Netherlands.
Oh yeah,
a lot of countries can be.
Well, unless you're in the UAE.
I mean, by that token, the Finnish driver should be unstoppable.
Well, yeah, but he didn't have a good race. Leclerc just got shit on.
Yeah, Sainz just did mine and Alan's trick.
Yeah.
Which is always fun. Yeah, 2 laps to go, bang a set of softs on, just go and have that fastest lap point.
And it worked.
Yeah, all credit to him. It was a brilliant move. It's a move that me and you have used on many occasions.
Well, yeah, he had the gap to do it, though.
Yeah.
That's what worked. That's what helped him. He had that gap to be able to do it because it was only 20 seconds pit stop.
Yeah, it's quite short because even though it's a slow pit lane, you cut out most of like the last 2 corners.
Yeah. And that's
although the pit lane does have its issues, like with the exit, and I believe in practice it was Lando and Newcomer won it. Basically, nearly went straight up the back of him.
I don't know.
I think it was Lando and one of these new guys who was one of the F2 guys sitting in and came out of the pits. Lando right behind him on track and nearly ended up.
Well, which?
When that Hadja.
Well, that was that was Red Bull then. If it was Isaac Hadjar, that's Red Bull.
I'd have to go back and look it up
because you had Carla Pinto for Williams and Doohan in the Alpine, and obviously Behrman in.
I don't think it was a Red Bull. I really don't.
I know Hadjar. I think Hadjar had a bit of a.
I'm going back in the F1 news now.
Somebody had to do with somebody.
Yeah, Isaac Hadjar was driving for Red Bull in FP1. Doohan was in the Alpine.
What I've just said.
Behrman was Haas. And Pinto was Williams.
Yeah, that's what I just said. Not many people got... Well, a couple of people got lapped more than once. Perez, Guan Yu Zhou, and Ocon got lapped twice. Bottas, Leclerc, and Danny Rick got lapped once. Why do I get the feeling my fantasy team's completely fucked this week?
Yours ain't anyone.
No, I'm getting the feeling only just because of. I think it's Danny Rick's going to let me down.
Believe me, you're not the only one who's had issues this week.
I don't know.
Mine's going to be Russell.
Oh, yeah. I don't know, though. I don't know. You might get away with no negatives. You might.
Well,
it depends. Yeah,
oh, I think all that's left to say, like I always said, fair play to Hamilton. Not the biggest fan. Can't take that one away from him. Drove well when he needed to.
and his last, last win at Silverstone for
In a Mercedes.
Yeah.
The only driver to have ever won at the same circuit 9 times.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you can see the emotion.
Oh, yeah. Well, he got driver of the day as well, I do believe.
Yes, he did.
And that's kind of covering the bases, I think.
I mean,
It was, and it surprised me. I'm never the biggest fan of British racing circuits. I've said in the past, they're a bit too flat for my liking. But that was one of the more exciting races we've had for a little while.
yeah.
Like I said, the weather element was obviously the big
That played a massive
factor.
factor. Yeah, definitely.
But
See, if it was a dry race, it could have been completely different.
I think if in a dry race, I don't think we'd have had half the interest and excitement we had.
I don't know. It depends between. I think we'd have had Max Lando and probably Oscar hammering it out.
But when you add in the rain factor, it does make it interesting, and it didn't disappoint. That's for sure.
I'd say it was better than Austria.
Yeah, better than the last 2 or 3, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, Monaco's just a snooze fest as usual, but hey ho.
The big question is, can the next Grand Prix be just as good?
Hungary, because that's another one where the weather can play a factor.
Yeah.
You know, we'll have to wait and see, I guess. And obviously, we've got my favourite coming after that.
Spa.
Good old Belgium.
Which the weather
Well,
can...
Belgium's got the other advantage because it's such a long circuit where it can be different weather at different ends of the track.
Yeah, but the weather can really play hell there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
As you remember.
Like a few years ago.
Oh, yeah. 1997.
I wasn't on about the 1997. I'm on about
A few years ago, wasn't it?
a couple of years ago where we had that 3 hours of shite all. 2021 it was.
The safety car got more laps in than the race cars.
Yeah. But Milan should have got driver of the day.
That's when Russell stuck up in second or third in the Williams, didn't he?
Yeah.
Second. So, the bit that I'm sort of dreading, but here we go.
I think you were dreading it less once you see it.
Oh, you got screwed, David.
Yeah.
I beat David.
Everybody beat me.
But look who but look who come out on top. As much as I predicted that. We'd said about Ryan going top.
Yeah.
For
Silverstone.
I've still got a lead, but it's coming down.
Also, it was Guan Yu. Technically, it was Guan Yu Zhou that screwed you then, David.
Yeah, and he's only a -2. It's just that apart from Max, I've just got not very many high. Ferrari, to be honest, was probably my biggest problem.
Because of Leclerc.
Well, Sainz didn't have, apart from the fastest lap.
I had a -9 on Russell.
Yeah. Yeah, but you clawed it back. Well, yeah, because he's 52, though, that climbed.
Yeah.
Your team as well, my 5-3 for Sauber.
Yeah.
Technically, Sauber gave me 1 point if you take Joe's 2 off it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, overall...
Yeah, I had no negatives. Sainz did me a bit of a favour. should have fucking gone for Lando instead of Piastri, really. But the problem is I see Piastri is improving.
Yeah.
And then obviously Ryan did well because of Lando.
Not to mention, could you put Lando in and not have to change anything else? Depends where your budget lies. It's alright saying Lando would do you better, but if you were to take somebody out to put Lando in because of the budgets, then it may not actually be a better choice overall.
Yeah, but the problem is I'd have to take out Oscar.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if you swapped Oscar to Norris, could you just do that, or have you got the budget spare to do that?
Not sure without actually looking, to be honest.
That's the point I'm trying to make. Is it's all right saying that, but if you had to drop somebody else to make the budget up,
yeah,
and then would have to repick whatever you got rid of.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oscar is valued at 22.3 mil.
What's Lando?
26.1.
Yeah, so
it's like a 3-point-something million difference. I don't think you've got that much spare capital.
No, I've only got about 1.7.
So yeah, in order to get Lando, you'd have to
possibly drop signs out of that as well.
Or drop one of your, or change one of your teams or something to get yourself.
I'm only on Williams and I'm only Williams and RB. I've not got a lot of capital playing for team wise.
Well, that's it. I mean, I've got Ferrari's my big one, but this weekend just wasn't a good one for them. Maybe I need to look at that, like, because it doesn't appear to be. I seem to be at the point where I am losing points here. But I don't really know what the way out is right now.
For me, I could change K-Mag and put in Hulkenberg.
Yeah. But like I say, like Alan's now at the bottom, but there's a little bit of a gap there. Not much of a gap between me and Alan. Ryan's coming for you, David. Is all I'm going to say.
There's a lot of ground and a lot of points to make up before we're at that point. So I'm not terrified yet.
I'm sorry, but if McLaren keep on doing the way they are going, Ryan is definitely coming for you, David.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot.
No.
There's a lot of ground to cover. You've not got me scared yet.
I'm not on about myself.
No, just in general. Like I say,
I think
I've still got like a 400-point lead at this stage.
Yeah, but all it takes is McLaren to have a good couple of things.
Yeah, but I've got Piastri.
Yes, but
so if he has a really good weekend, I benefit.
Yeah, I know, but obviously Ryan's got Lando and Piastri and McLaren. This is where it's boosting him to catch you.
Nah. You're both doommongers, you really are.
I'm just speaking the truth.
And I know there's a lot to happen between now and then.
Oh yeah, there's still plenty of races.
Oh yeah, but I still think he's going to catch you at some point.
I mean, we're around 12.
Well, that's good for the guy who's now sort of third and way behind, so...
As long as I don't come last, I don't care.
Yeah, but I think that...
Well, that's the position you're in right now.
Yeah, but...
You're in that position
at the moment.
According to this, I think Chris overtook you this weekend looking at the...
Yeah. Well, no, he was ahead of me.
I don't know, it's just because of the way, if you look at the arrows, it's showing him jumping up.
Yeah. But I think they've done that due to qualifying and things like that. So it's constantly up and down throughout the qualifying.
Well, at one point, you two were like a point apart, weren't you?
We were a point apart.
But it's still, we're halfway there.
We're living on a prayer.
Because what was it, 24 races this year?
Yeah, we are. We're at exactly the halfway point.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Anyways, I'm going to end this one here. So obviously, thank you to Alan and Dave for joining.
More than welcome as usual.
Been a pleasure as always.
don't forget, if you're listening on Spotify, you've got the YouTube and links at the top, and actually it will appear on the others. And yeah, we shall see you for
Hungary enough. Just over a week at this point.
Yeah. Until then.
Adios, amigos.
Later, folks.
Goodbye for now.